And we may now proceed to elect the chair.
Madam Clerk,
Yes.
I am very pleased and honored to nominate Emmanuel Dubourg for chair of our committee.
Donc, je vais juste procéder à lire ce que j'ai, le texte.
I'm going to read the script that I have here, and then I will open the floor for nominations. Thank you. Honorable members of the committee, I see a quorum. I must inform members that the clerk of the committee can only receive motions for the election of the chair. The clerk cannot receive other types of motions, cannot entertain points of order, nor participate in debate. We can now proceed to the election of the chair. Pursuant to Standing Order 106-2, the chair must be a member of the government party. I am ready to receive motions for the chair. Mr. Duguid has moved that Mr. Dubourg be elected as chair of this committee. Are there any further motions? I second the motion. Mr. Dubourg, you owe me a beer now. Well, we'll see if I'm appointed chair.
Mr. Dubourg be elected as chair of the committee. Pursuant to the House Order of Wednesday, September 23rd, I will now proceed to a recorded division. So, Monsieur Arsenault?
Effectivement, oui.
Madame Ashton?
Oui.
Monsieur Beaulieu?
Je vote pour.
Monsieur Blaney?
Félicitations, Monsieur Dubourg.
Monsieur Dalton?
Oui.
Monsieur Duguid?
Je vote pour.
Monsieur Généreux?
Ah, je suis plus sûr, finalement. Mais oui.
Madame Lalonde?
Oui.
Madame Lambropoulos?
Oui.
Madame Latanzio?
Oui.
Et Monsieur Williamson?
Oui, un grand oui.
Donc, j'invite Monsieur Dubourg.
Mr. Dubourg, you can take the chair. Well, thank you. I declare you duly elected chair of the committee. Thank you so much, Mrs. Clerk. I'm really happy. Thanks to all for voting for me during this election. I'm really happy to see you again for most of us and to continue to promote the affairs of the committee. Mrs. Clerk, I would like to thank you and thank Nancy and thank interpreters who are there, and I'm not forgetting analysts, Mrs. Lecomte and Mrs. Blackmore. Here we are. So, Mrs. Clerk, we now should go ahead with the election of 2 vice chairs, right? Indeed.
6.2, the first vice chair must be a member of the official opposition. I am now prepared to receive motions for the first vice chair.
Je propose Stephen Blaney.
I propose Stephen Blaney as vice chair, first vice chair.
It has been moved by Monsieur Généreux that Monsieur Blaney be elected as first vice
That Mr. Blaney be elected
pursuant to the House Order of Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020. I will now proceed to a recorded division. Monsieur Arsenault,
Oui.
Madame Ashton,
Oui.
Monsieur Beaulieu,
Vote pour.
Monsieur Blaney.
C'est un peu gênant, je vais m'abstenir.
Ah, pardon, excusez-moi, Monsieur Dalton.
Ah oui.
Vous pouvez voter Monsieur Blaney.
Ah, si vous insistez. Bernard, je te parie une bière.
Monsieur Duguid,
Oui.
Monsieur Généreux,
Oui, bien sûr.
Madame Lalonde,
Bien oui.
Madame Lambropoulos,
Oui.
Madame Latanzio,
Oui.
Monsieur Williamson.
Oui.
I declare the motion carried. And Mr. Blaney duly elected vice chair
Merci beaucoup,
of the
Madame
committee.
la secrétaire.
Félicitations.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Congratulations. The interpreter cannot hear Mr. Blaney as his microphone is way up. Thank you.
Donc, conformément à l'article 106.2,
So, pursuant to Section 106.2, the second vice chair must be a member for an opposition party other than the official position. I'm now prepared to receive motions for the second vice chair. I move Monsieur Beaulieu. Any other motions? Mrs. Ashton. I move that it be Mrs. Ashton. I have a better chance that she pays for the beer than Mr. Blaney. How nice. Thank you, says Mrs. Ashton. We're not very well renowned for our beers here, but most certainly in Quebec, yes. So more than one candidate was moved. So pursuant to the order of 2020, these must be considered as notice of motion, and they must be considered one after the other until one of the motion is carried. Just a second, please. I think we need a match women-men for equity purposes within the committee. It's not personal, by the way, Mr. Blaney. So we'll go ahead with the first motion, who moved the appointment of Mr. Beaulieu. So I will go ahead with a recorded vote. Mr. Arsenault. You know, I'm not really pleased to be called Arsenault in cases like these. Or like this. Listen, I have to choose someone? Are you asking me to choose? The interpreter is sorry. There is sound fluctuation. I will support someone who was there last year. Two good candidates. So I'll support Mr. Beaulieu. Okay. Yes, for Mr. Beaulieu. Let's go for a short call. The motion on the floor currently is for the vote. That is for the first motion. And we'll see what would be the motion carried. It will be considered a notice. So we must first deal with the first motion. First motion is the one of Mrs. Lambopoulos, that is that Mr. Beaulieu be the second vice chair. Mr. Arsenault recorded his vote. Mr. Dugan. Mr. Duguid.
Oui, pour
Yes, for Mr. Beaulieu.
two great candidates, Madam Clerk, but yes for Monsieur Beaulieu.
Thank you very much. Madame Lalonde.
Écoutez,
Listen, I will say also yes for Mr. Beaulieu. Thank you so much. May I remind the members of the committee that this motion is for Mr. Beaulieu. It's not a choice between the two candidates. The second one is on notice. Mrs. Lambropoulos. Yes. Mrs. Latangio. Yes for that motion. Mr. Blaney. The interpreter cannot offer the service as the microphone is not on.
Donc, en ce moment, on procède au vote sur la motion de...
Currently, we're voting on Mrs. Lambropoulos' motion for the nomination, appointment of the second vice chair. And the name proposed here, moved here, is the name of Mr. Beaulieu. And this motion, as of 23rd of December, that is contrary to the in-person chair vote. There is no secret ballot, but because we have to go virtually, the second motion, if there is two motions for one position, the second one is considered a notice. So we have to vote on the first motion, and in this case, it has been moved that Mr. Beaulieu be second vice chair. If it's defeated, then we will vote on the second motion. The interpreter reminds you that we cannot hear Mr. Blaney. Thank you.
Alors, Monsieur Blaney, ce qu'on nous dit, c'est qu'on vous entend mal. Moi, je vous ai entendu, mais par contre,
OK,
il semblerait...
alors je vais voter non pour...
So I will vote no because of the regional diversity principle. Mr. Beaulieu, it's only a geographical matter. Don't take it personally. Mr. Dalton, no. Mr. Généreux.
Et simplement pour dire que Mme Ashton représente un parti national qui représente des francophones partout à travers le Canada également. Et c'est encore une fois rien de personnel envers vous.
Non, c'est ça. Rien.
It's nothing against you, Mr. Blaney. Thank you, Mr. Généreux. Mr. Blaney, please mute, and I would like to ask other members to put themselves on mute if you're not taking the floor. Thank you. Mr. Williamson.
Oui, je vais voter avec mes...
I will vote with my compatriots. That is, I will vote no. Okay, thank you. Mr. Beaulieu. Yes. Mrs. Ashton. I would say no, with all due respect and great appreciation for the move with the proposal of Mr. Blaney, and we do have to take into account regional diversity in our committee. Mr. Chair.
Five.
Alors, Madame la greffier.
So, Madam Clerk, if I understand these figures, these numbers, is this motion for the appointment of Mr. Beaulieu carried? Yes, indeed. 6 for, 5 against. So the motion is that Mr. Beaulieu be nominated, be elected as second vice chair, and the motion is carried. Excuse me, may I add something, please? Yes, go ahead. Congratulations, Mr. Chair. A correction. Mr. Généreux made the appointment. In this virtual world, sometimes we'll make mistakes, so congratulations to Mr. Beaulieu. Thank you. So that's that for that. We now have members, chair, vice chair, duly elected. So that's we must understand right now. Yes. So now we have a duly elected chair, vice chair, and second vice chair.
Deux vice-présidents et le comité.
2 vice chairs. And now, Mr. Chair, the committee is in your hands. Thank you. Thank you very much, and congratulations to the vice chairs. We are going to be working together, and it is very important to understand voices from all regions. And as Mr. Blaney says, this is a national committee. It is therefore important to think about everyone and to make sure that we really are meeting the objectives and fulfilling the committee's mandate. And on that note, I think it is customary for us now to move on to routine motions. Yes, Ms. Ashton.
You muted, Miss Ashton.
Oui, je vous ai entendu, merci.
Yes, I heard you. Thank you. I would like to put something forward. I would like to put forward a motion. Excuse me, Mr. Chair, with all respect, Miss Ashton, I have had my hand raised on the console here since the beginning. Excuse me, Ms. Ashton, I hate to do that.
Excusez, je vais demander à la...
Excuse me, I will ask Nancy, our clerk, if she can intervene, because there is an order that must be respected when it comes to motions. Madam Clerk?
Alors, puisque c'est votre toute première...
Yes, well, since it is your very first meeting as a committee, yes, as it is your first virtual committee meeting, I would like to specify something, Mr. Chair. There are 2 options when one wants to ask to speak. One can raise one's hand with the small blue hand virtually on Zoom. Can you see that, Mr. Dubourg? Yes, I can. Should I see that on the screen? In fact, you should be able to see it if you select Gallery View, viewing all participants, and you should be able to see a little blue hand in a square beside each face. For the moment, I don't see that. Could we perhaps carry out a test?
Yes, I can guide you. You can go to your drop-down menu on the bottom of the screen. You should have a little face with number 24. Yes, that's right, participants. Yes, if you click on that, you will have a list of participants that will come up on the right-hand side. And all members can see this list of participants. And when people click on raise hand, it will show you the order in which people have raised their hands. In in-person committees, one raises one's hand. But, Mr. Chair, I would recommend that you keep an eye on that list and to take note of the order. But given that this is the very first virtual committee meeting with José, who I will give the floor to in a moment, and it is her first meeting as well, there is no process yet in order. But before we end the meeting today, you could establish a procedure. And so I'll pass you back over the floor, and it is up to you to give the floor to speakers as chair. Absolutely. Thank you. What I was saying was that now that we have finished voting on chair and vice chair, normally we do start routine motions next. And these are motions to establish the operations of the committee. And next we would go and move on to motions to debate on what the committee should look at. Madam Clerk, I would just like to confirm that that is the case. Yes. Your chair, José, will answer that question.
Donc, vous pouvez
And so you can start with routine motions. You can go one by one, or you can choose to pass them all together. It's really up to you. Sometimes committees find it easier to go one by one, but it is up to you.
Merci. Donc,
Okay, thank you very much. In order to be fair, I'm looking at the participants. And personally, I would usually start with the routine motions, but I do see 4 raised hands when I look at participants now. Ms. Ashton had asked to intervene. I would like to confirm my list. I have Madame Lalonde, Madame Latanzio, Madame Lambropoulos, and Mr. Beaulieu. And Ms. Ashton had also asked for the floor. And so what I would like to propose is the following. Let's start with the routine motions in order to establish the way that our committee will operate. And next, move on to those 4 raised hands and add Ms. Ashton as speaker 5. Does that suit everyone? Ms. Ashton. Mr. Chair, I wanted to present a motion regarding routine motions. That is why I raised my hand. And excuse me, when I was at other committees, we did use our physical hand. We also had the option to raise our virtual hand, but personally, I raised my hand physically more often. Very well, thank you very much. I would also like to invite participants to use both options for raising their hand, because when I look at the screen, sometimes I don't see all members of the committee. So please do go ahead and use both options for raising your hands. And to respond to your comment, Ms. Ashton, perhaps the motion that you were going to propose will slot in nicely with the routine motions. And so if you would please hang on to your motion and ask for the floor when the motion in question is brought up. Just to clarify, my motion pertained to our schedule or the time allocated for witnesses and the time that each party will be given. And so I don't understand why I should wait to be the fifth speaker since I did raise my hand. Well, you don't have to wait to be the fifth speaker, but what I mean to say is that when the routine motions will be raised step by step, you will be able to present an amendment. For example, to the timing, as you said. So when that motion is raised, anyone can intervene to propose an amendment, no matter which routine motion it may be. Okay. So that means we're not going to pass all routine motions together as a bunch. We are going to go through them one by one and we'll vote on them one by one.
Est-ce qu'on est mieux dans...
A little point of order. Do we have to lower our hands and raise them again? That's a good question. Ms. Clerk, could we erase all of the hands? Could we lower all of the hands, so to speak?
Était levé pour des motions.
If the hands were raised regarding motions on subjects to debate, that would be different than if they were raised for routine motions. The chair seems to wish to proceed with routine motions. So if hands were not raised for routine motions, could I ask participants to please lower their hands now? And after routine motions are finished, we will move on with that in order to not cause confusion for the chair. Very good. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Lalonde's hand remained raised. Okay, very good. Well, let's move on now with the routine motions. Are there any proposals? Yes, Mr. Chair. And I am so very sorry, Ms. Ashton, to have interrupted you. I don't make a habit of it. It wasn't meant to interrupt you. I did want to present a motion on routine motions. And if you do have an amendment, I'm sure the committee will take that into account. So, Mr. Chair, I would like to begin with the first motion. The first motion is on analyst services. That the committee retain, as needed, and at the discretion of the chair, the services of one or more analysts from the Library of Parliament to assist it in its work.
Voilà.
There we go. That is the first routine motion. Madam Clerk, we're on the topic of routine motions, so if members are in agreement, we can put it to a vote. And instead of doing this individually, perhaps we could ask if anyone is against the motion. And if there are any amendments, we can address them. So could we vote in that fashion, please?
Oui, donc vous pouvez...
Yes, you can proceed in that way if you think it's more efficient.
Avec plaisir. Donc, allons-y.
With pleasure.
Désolée, est-ce que vous voulez y aller par vote nominal?
Pardon me, do you want to use a consensus or vote member by member? Yes, let's start with a consensus vote. And if we notice that it's necessary at some point to have a recorded division, we can do that, but let's start with a consensus.
Donc, est-ce qu'il y a consensus?
Is there consensus for the motion as described by Ms. Lalonde?
Donc, je vois que...
I see that everyone is in agreement. We can move on to the next motion.
Merci, Madame la greffière.
Perfect. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next, on the Subcommittee on Agenda and Procedure, that the Subcommittee on Agenda and Procedure be established and be composed of 5 members, the chair, 1 member from each party, and that the subcommittee work in the spirit of collaboration.
Voilà. Donc, on y
Let's have another consensus vote, please.
Président, si vous permettez, je veux juste m'assurer que tout le monde, leurs micros sont fermés. Monsieur Beaulieu, on vous entend parler juste pour être sûr qu'il n'y a pas de choses qui peuvent être dites, qu'on ne se rend pas compte qu'on dit des choses à d'autres mondes.
The sound is not safe for the interpreter at this time. Service will resume as soon as possible.
Merci.
Monsieur le Président Jennings.
Mr. Chair, I have a question regarding the subcommittee. There will be 12 of us. So, will we organize another subcommittee?
Voilà. Donc, normalement, le sous-comité.
Usually, the subcommittee, as indicated in the motion, is composed of the chair, vice chairs, and another member. Those would be the participants who would be members of that committee. Does that answer your question, Mr. Dalton? We can reread the motion.
Je peux vous la relire.
Yes, I can reread the motion, Mr. Dalton.
Monsieur Arsenault.
Mr. Arsenault?
Dalton, juste pour votre...
Mr. Dalton, you are new on the committee. In past years, there was a subcommittee that was comprised of the chair, 2 vice chairs, and someone from another party as well. And I was parliamentary secretary. I was part of the committee. But it's special this year because there is another party. We can certainly accept for the NDP to be part of the committee. I will continue in French. The objective of the committee was to make work more efficient. We met together and we put together a list of priorities. It was a way for us to be quicker and to save time.
Donc, merci. Donc, il devrait avoir comme 3.
So there should be 3 opposition members and 2 government members then? Mr. Dalton, I will reread the motion.
Non, OK. Donc, que le
Motion that the Subcommittee on Agenda and Procedure be established and be composed of 5 members, the chair, 1 member from each party, and that the subcommittee work in the spirit of collaboration. Chair, shall we put it to a vote? Yes. And Madam Clerk, should we proceed in the same way? We can go ahead with consensus or with a recorded vote. Consensus. Is there consensus on adopting the motion as proposed by Ms. Lalonde? We have consensus. Thank you, Ms. Lalonde. Go ahead. Next motion, meeting without a quorum. That the chair be authorized to hold meetings to receive evidence and to have that evidence printed when a quorum is not present, provided that at least 4 members are present, including a member of the opposition and 1 member of the government. But when traveling outside the parliamentary precinct, that the meeting begin after 15 minutes, regardless of members present. Colleagues, let us vote on this motion regarding meeting without a quorum. Do we have consensus? Yes? Great. We are in agreement. Next, Time for opening remarks and questioning of witnesses. That witnesses be given 10 minutes for their opening statement, and that, at the discretion of the chair, during the questioning of witnesses, there be allocated 6 minutes for the first questioner of each party as follows. Round 1, Conservative Party, Liberal Party, Bloc Québécois, New Democratic Party. For the second and subsequent rounds, the order and time for questioning be as follows. Conservative Party, 5 minutes. Liberal Party, 5 minutes. Conservative Party, 5 minutes. Liberal Party, 5 minutes. Bloc Québécois, 2.5 minutes. New Democratic Party, 2.5 minutes. Let us debate. Ms. Lampropoulos would like to speak, Mr. Beaulieu, Ms. Ashton, and Mr. Généreux. Ms. Lampropoulos, go ahead. I agree with the motion. However, I wonder whether we could consider an addition
and that we ensure that every member who is supposed to be speaking gets the chance to speak unless there are unless we can't because the room is being taken over by another committee after ours, but that we respect the time allotted to every member, and regardless of whether we have technological problems at the beginning of meetings, that everybody's time gets respected.
Emmanuel, tu étais en sourdine.
Oui, je m'excuse. Monsieur Beaulieu, à votre tour.
Emmanuel, you were on mute. Sorry, Mr. Beaulieu, it's your turn to speak. I would like to move the following amendment. That witnesses have 5 minutes for opening remarks, and that, as much as whenever possible, the witnesses send their remarks in writing 72 hours ahead of time, and that during questioning of witnesses, there be 6 minutes for the first questioner of each party, first Conservative, second, Liberal, third, Bloc Québécois, fourth, New Democratic Party, and that for the second and subsequent rounds, the order and time for questioning be as follows. Conservative Party, 5 minutes, Liberal Party, 5 minutes, Bloc Québécois, 2 minutes, NDP, 2 minutes, Conservative Party, 5 minutes, Liberal Party, 5 minutes. Noted. Thank you. Let us hear other comments, and then we will proceed with votes and discussions on these amendments in order to vote on the main motion. Ms. Ashton, you were next in line to speak. Yes, thank you, Chair. I am against Ms. Lalande's motion. I support Mr. Beaulieu's motion. I feel that that would be more effective. It would give us more time for questioning. I also feel that it's important that all opposition voices be heard. I would also like to highlight that many committees have adopted such an approach because it is, in fact, more effective. I was going to move a motion or amendment or motion identical to Mr. Beaulieu's, and that's why I am in support of his motion. Thank you. Mr. Généreux. A question for Ms. Lalonde, Chair. Is her motion the equivalent of what we had previously in committee? As far as I'm concerned, the way we worked very well. I don't remember the block only having 2.5 minutes. Is that how it was? Oh, okay. So I think we should leave things as they were. Thank you. I can answer your question, Mr. Généreux. Yes, these are routine motions. These are motions which were tabled during the last session and adopted on February 20th, 2020. Before we proceed to voting, Mr. Arsenault would like to speak. No, in fact, I put my hand down. Mr. Généreux said exactly what I wanted to say. That is that the status quo is fine. It has always worked well. 10 minutes may seem like a long time for an opening statement, but you know, we deal with complicated issues, for example, language rights, constitutional issues, and so the 10 minutes isn't as long as it seems. I, like Bernard Généreux, enjoy the status quo. Thank you. And now, Ms. Latanzio, go ahead. Thank you, Chair. Let me see whether I understand this. It is proposed that witnesses have less time for opening statements so that other parties be in the middle of the list for the second round. But as my colleague said, as long as we ensure that the order and time be respected at all times, then that would be fine. And Mr. Généreux, I agree that during the previous session, everything worked as it should. For those reasons, I will vote against the amendment. Thank you, Ms. Latanzio. Mr. Beaulieu. I'd like to clarify. 5-minute limit for the first question doesn't prevent other parties from further questioning. During the previous session, we were always being cut off because we didn't have enough time, and that's what we're trying to address. Thank you. And now, Mr. Duguay.
The reasons that I put your name forward in nomination is that you are a very fair-minded individual. You are a very able chair. And Mr. Chair, I think you can use your discretion, as Ms. Lambropoulos had mentioned. And so I will, I think Madam Lambropoulos has made a persuasive argument, and I would like to join her in support of that approach. To use the chair's discretion, everyone will get a chance to speak.
Bon, voilà, merci. Donc, nous avons entendu les différents...
Thank you. We have now discussed the motion. And now Nancy would like to speak. Go ahead, Nancy. Thank you, Chair. I apologize for interrupting. During an in-person meeting, I would not interrupt, but in this virtual context, we haven't established how I can intervene. As for the proposal that witnesses send in their speaking notes 72 minutes ahead of time, I, as clerk, suggest that that is an amendment that can be adopted, absolutely. However, there are certain factors such as the type of witness, the type of committee, the type of subject being studied. It's not always guaranteed or feasible. Often, witnesses are invited to testify with less than 72 hours notice. Also, some witnesses are not able to or are not gifted when it comes to drafting speaking notes in 72 hours. Thank you very much. Mr. Beaulieu, in light of this information, would you like to propose a motion, or should we go with the routine motion? Well, I moved an amendment. Oh, yes, of course, your amendment. As we just heard, 72 hours can be problematic. Miss Lalonde wishes to speak. While you're giving this some thought, Miss Lalonde. Nancy, second clerk, could you clarify something for me? Mr. Chair, we're hearing that in these exceptional circumstances, Mr. Beaulieu's amendment, the 72 hours might be very challenging and might, in fact, limit our witnesses. Is that what you were saying, Madam Clerk? Thank you. I speak through the chair and seek to clarify the motion. There would be no issue with adopting this motion. We might add wherever possible, or we might keep in mind that we should say whenever possible, because when witnesses are invited with less than 72 hours notice, they cannot give their documents with less than 72 hours notice.
C'est seulement un...
It's only a reminder. Thank you so much. Mrs. Ashton, you want to take the floor before Mr. Beaulieu? Concerning these 72 hours, it's important to be flexible because we do recognize that several organizations are going through difficult times. So we shall not expect that they always have the necessary capacity to give us their presentation 3 days ahead of time. So we want to be able to hear them. And going back to what Mr. Beaulieu said, we're talking about 5 minutes. If 5 minutes or less is not enough, maybe 30 seconds like during question period. It's up to us to decide if it's enough or not. I think that if we give the right time, we can better focus during those 5 minutes, so we can still work efficiently with that. Thank you. Mr. Beaulieu, I've tabled a motion. It says, in as far as possible, witnesses would provide their opening statement 72 hours ahead of time. It's not a must, but in as far as possible. Okay, so at this point in time, I would ask, Mr. Généreux, you want to take the floor? Briefly. Both motions present interesting issues. This committee traditionally working on a consensus. Maybe we should bring a modification. Before, you said that the Bloc Québécois and the New Democratic Party had only 2.5 minutes. It surprises me because I thought we all had a minimum of 5 minutes. I think I agree with the 72 hours. We do have to be flexible. I'd be open to give 5 minutes to the Bloc Québécois and to the New Democratic Party so they can ask questions. This is the kind of 5 minutes we're talking about, is it? Mr. Beaulieu? Well, at the beginning, it was that witnesses be given 5 minutes. So you can add some time at the end, right? Yes, indeed. Moreover, well, that's that. And we're talking about 6 minutes. So it gives more time to all members to intervene. I think it's important that we have 10 minutes for the witnesses. My own understanding, Mr. Généreux, is that the motion that was tabled resembles the one we had last February. For the first round, we talked about 6 minutes per party, Conservative, Liberal, Bloc Québécois, and New Democratic Party. And during the second round, we were saying 5 for the Conservative and Liberals, 5 minutes Conservative, 5 minutes Liberal, then 2.5 minutes for the Bloc Québécois and 2.5 minutes for the New Democratic Party. What Mr. Beaulieu is moving is that by reducing the number of minutes for witnesses from 10 to 6 minutes, given that Mr. Beaulieu wants to recoup those minutes and provide them to the Bloc and New Democratic during the second round, so they would both have 5 minutes. Let's clarify all this so we can go ahead with an amendment on this motion. So I'll start with Mrs. Lalonde, then Mr. Beaulieu, because they have raised their hands. Mrs. Lalonde, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Beaulieu, listen. I think that the routine motion that was carried before, and Mr. Généreux, yes, it was carried in February 2020 of this year, and they coexisted for a while in this official languages committee and in other committees. My colleague, Mr. Beaulieu, moves to change the order and to take away 5 minutes to witnesses. And according to Mr. Généreux, you say that you'd like to save that 10 minutes. So I think I would side with my colleague, Emanuela, who says that, and Mr. Duguid Terry referred to it, because we have an extraordinary chair, he will make sure to have a spirit of collaboration. We always had that spirit of collaboration within this committee. It's so pleasant. I think that each member and each respective party should have their given time. I repeat how important it is to maintain the routine motion of the 43rd Parliament first session. During the subsequent rounds, the Bloc and the New Democratic Party would respectively have 2.5 minutes. I think we should maintain that as was presented in the original motion. Thank you. So, 4 people want to intervene. Mr. Beaulieu, Mr. Dalton, Mrs. Ashton, and I add Mr. Duguid. Mr. Beaulieu, you have the floor. Well, I think it's important to keep the same order. I'm willing to side with the compromise proposition of Mr. Généreux. So in that case, we would leave 10 minutes for witnesses. We would keep the same order of intervention, but we would give 5 minutes to the Bloc and to the New Democratic Party. So we reach some kind of balance. Mr. Dalton. Thank you, Mr. Beaulieu. Mr. Dalton, you have the floor. Well, I only wanted to say that we have to maintain the 10 minutes for witnesses. We want to hear the witnesses. Let's not reduce that time. Thank you. Mrs. Ashton. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm open to keeping the 10 minutes for witnesses. Good arguments have been raised by other members. But what I would add is that I did like the comments of Mr. Beaulieu, that is, during the second round, we would have Conservative 5, Liberal 5, and then Bloc and New Democratic Party, and then Conservative and Liberals for 5 minutes. We would change this order. I'm not sure that's what you've proposed, Mr. Beaulieu, if that's what you've moved. If we maintain the 10 minutes, we'll be running for time. So I think we can keep the 2.5 minutes, but change the order. That would be third Bloc Québécois, fourth New Democratic Party, then Conservative and Liberal for 5 minutes each. I do appreciate this willingness and to be fair during our interventions, but we all know that during virtual committee there are a lot of challenges and issues. Time is of the essence, and it's not always possible to be super flexible. So now we have this opportunity. We have to have a formal procedure to make sure that all parties can take the floor during the second round and ask questions. This would provide for a strong democracy within our committee. 5 minutes might not be agreeable to all, but the most important is to make sure that it's fair and that we can hear everybody. So we should put the Bloc Québécois and the New Democratic Party as third and fourth with 2.5 minutes each. 2 more interventions. Mr. Dubuc and then Monsieur Arsenault. Monsieur Duguid, pardon.
A number of people have made my point already. 10 minutes is absolutely essential to hear delegations. These folks are coming from a long way from our home province of Manitoba, Ms. Ashton. It's 2,000 miles, and really to give them only 5 minutes would not be acceptable. It would in fact be insulting. And so I'm glad everyone's made that point, and we seem to have achieved consensus on that item.
In closing, well, not closing, but there's another intervention. Mr. Arsenault. The interpreter says that Mr. Arsenault's microphone is not well placed. We're saying about the same. You're afraid that there might not be enough time, so the last people on the list could lose their time.
Président actuel. Mon son est inacceptable. Est-ce que c'est mieux?
Vous êtes en sourdine, voilà.
Est-ce qu'on m'entend mieux?
Oui, de mon point de vue, oui.
Désolé, je l'ai dit.
Mrs. Ashton, we're saying all the same. If you're worried that during the second round of questioning we don't have enough time and we would eliminate the parties that were last, I can tell you, since I've been in this committee, Mr. Généreux, Conservative, has been on this committee since 2015. I've never seen a chair shortening the time with the last parties on the list. On the contrary, chairs each time, even though when vice chairs were Conservatives like Mr. Clark, they've given the time proportionally so that everyone had the time to say what they had to say. If we must be fair, we've always been fair here in the committee. I've never seen the contrary, not once. It's been like that since I've been sitting on this committee. That's it for my intervention. It's up to you Mr. Chair, Mr. Dubourg. We must respect the time allotted to each political party. It must be fair to all. Thank you, Mr. Arsenault. Before giving the floor to Mrs. Ashton, Mr. Beaulieu, you raised a hand. Well, actually, the difference is that in the original proposal is that in the second round would be 5 Conservative, 5 Liberal, 5 Conservative, 5 Liberal, 2.5 Bloc, 2.5 New Democratic Party. With the new amendment, it would be the same for the first two, except we would have third and fourth Bloc Québécois, New Democratic, 2.5, 2.5, and the last two would be Conservative Party and Liberal Party, 5-5. I remember that I couldn't take the floor because there was not enough time. So that would not be ideal, but we would all have the chance to interact with the witnesses during the second round of questioning. Mrs. Ashton, you have the floor. I fully agree with Mr. Beaulieu. It is a matter of equity, of fairness. I'm a member of several committees, been member for several years, and honestly, we're here full of good intentions. We want to contribute. We want to be fair. It's always important to make sure that there is equity. So I do support Mr. Beaulieu's proposition.
Yeah, Monsieur Dalton.
Thank you. Mr. Dalton also wishes to take the floor.
Excuse.
No, excuse me.
Écoutez.
Okay, thank you. Well, there have been numerous interventions on the matter. From my point of view, I also have my work to do. So be assured that my priority is for things to be equitable and for everyone to be able to speak. Next, I see that Ms. Lambropoulos would like to say a few words. Go ahead.
People not all getting their chance to ask questions is a problematic thing. I agree that 5 minutes is taking a lot of time away from our witnesses. However, the witnesses are there to answer our questions. So we will be hearing from them. We will be getting their testimony as a whole. Regardless of which order we're going in, I believe that it's important that all of us get to ask our questions, as that's why we're here. And so maybe not necessarily removing 5 minutes from each witness, but lessening their time if it's going to help us buy some time for everybody to get their chance to speak would be good. And obviously giving discretion to the chair as well. I have full confidence that Mr. Dubourg would be is a fair chair and is going to do his best to let everybody and every party be represented. But maybe we should be considering, I fully understand where Mr. Duguid is coming from as well with regards to 5 minute testimony, but these witnesses are going to be there for the entire duration of the meetings, and they will be answering our questions and providing us with a document as well, hopefully. So maybe we should consider shortening the time so that we all do get a chance to speak.
Merci, Madame Latanzio.
Thank you, Ms. Latanzio. Over to you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So to come back and give a little summary of what I have understood and what I agree with, I would say the following. I agree that we should keep things as they are and not adopt the motion because the amendment proposes changes. And if we make certain changes as were proposed, then everything would have to change. And I think we're clear on the fact that we want to maintain the time allocated for witnesses so that they may express themselves and have that latitude and not feel rushed. That is what I understand. And to give a resume, I would like to come back to the main idea, and that would be to keep the motion as it originally was. And I fully trust you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much, Ms. Latanzio. At the same time, it's important to also understand that it is possible to propose amendments. And that's why we are continuing our discussions. And next we have Mr. Beaulieu, who had tabled an amendment and who wishes to speak. So over to you, Mr. Beaulieu. Maybe one last attempt for consensus. In the amendment, we could give 10 minutes to the witnesses. If possible, they should send us their speeches 72 hours in advance. But other than that, the procedure should remain the same. 6 minutes to each party in the same order, and the only thing that would change in the second term would be for the Bloc and the NDP. At the very end would have 2.5 minutes, but the NDP and the Bloc would have their turn in between the first round for the Liberals and the Conservatives and the second round for the Liberals and the Conservatives. I think it's not perfect if we do that, but it is a step in the right direction. Very good. Understood, Mr. Beaulieu. And so I will remove that motion. Or rather, we're going to keep the part about 72 hours in advance, change the second round, and we will move on to a vote after you table this motion. Mr. Beaulieu. Yes, the motion would read, I'll just read it, that the witnesses will have 10 minutes for their opening speech rather. They should send their documents 72 hours in advance. Then 6 minutes will be given to the first speaker from each party as follows. First turn, Conservative, Liberal, Bloc, NDP. And then for the second turn and the other rounds will go as follows. Conservatives, 5 minutes, Liberals, 5 minutes, Bloc, 2.5 minutes, New Democratic Party, 2.5 minutes, Conservative Party, 5 minutes, Liberal Party, 5 minutes. Okay, Madam Clerk, tell us what you think. If there is no further debate, we should vote on the motion as amended, and if it is passed, we will pass the motion as amended. Ms. Lambropoulos.
Alors, c'est la dernière fois que
This is the last time I will speak to this matter. I would just like to say that I would be completely okay with the motion if a little time was shaved off the witnesses in order for us to ask more questions, since they will be with us for the rest of the meeting, even after their speeches. It's not as if we were only hearing from them for 5 minutes. They will be answering our questions, and it is more important for members to all be able to ask their questions. I would be okay with that if the order of questions was changed or not changed, because for me the priority is for each member to have time to ask their question.
est-ce qu'on serait
Would members be open to changing the time of speeches for witnesses? We will see what points of view of members are. Ms. Lalonde and then Mr. Beaulieu. Ms. Lalonde. I was wondering about Mr. Beaulieu's motion. Would it be, or rather his amendment, would it be possible to vote separately on different sections of that amendment, Mr. Chair? Or Mr. Beaulieu, rather. Mr. Beaulieu. Certainly. And to respond to Ms. Lambropoulos, perhaps we could give witnesses 7.5 minutes?
Madame Lambropoulos.
Ms. Lambropoulos?
Oui, c'est ça.
OK, bon, eh bien alors,
Okay. Mr. Dalton. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We could say to guests that it is not possible or that it is not mandatory to speak for the full 10 minutes. But if they really do need the 10 minutes, then they could keep it. That's my opinion.
Donc, Monsieur Arsenault.
Mr. Arsenault, go ahead.
Désolé, là.
Sorry, I feel like I'm going around in circles. If we shave time off 10 minutes, well, it never would be 10 minutes for each organization. It's 10 minutes for all of the witnesses. We're going to bring in an organization that is an expert in the matter, and I'm telling you, 10 minutes really is not a lot of time. Usually we have to cut people off after 10 minutes. And if different organizations have a specific point to make, I don't think we can make their time any shorter. And Ms. Ashton and Mr. Beaulieu also shared their concerns. In the second round, everyone should be able to ask their questions in the proportion of time allocated in the second round.
Madame Lambropoulos.
Ms. Lambropoulos, would you like the floor?
Non, mais
No.
to say again that 7.5 I think would be great, and I would completely support that, Monsieur Beaulieu.
D'accord. Donc, Monsieur.
Very good, thank you. I have another raised hand, Terry Duguid.
Begrudgingly, Mr. Chair, I would support 7.5 minutes. Not ideal, but it's between the 5 and the 10 that we had talked about.
Merci beaucoup. Donc, Monsieur Beaulieu.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Beaulieu, you're getting an idea of what the points of view are. And so for one last time, let's propose the amendment in its entirety. And next we will vote on the amendment and then on the motion. Ms. Lalonde and then Mr. Beaulieu. Go ahead, Ms. Lalonde. Excuse me, Mr. Chair. I was wondering if Mr. Beaulieu would be open to, as I mentioned in my the last time I had the floor, to the following: to take the motion in general, or rather than taking the motion in its entirety, to vote it on the sections of the motion. Yes, excellent. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Beaulieu. We could vote on the first part of the amendment and then the second part. One after the other. Would that suit you? Ms. Clerk, could you help us out? We are going to vote on the amendments, and afterwards we will vote on the motion as amended.
Voulez-vous que...
Would you like me to read it again? Read the first amendment and then the second amendment?
Non, moi...
And vote on each one at a time? No, I would say read out the amendment you would like to make to this motion. That the witnesses have 7 minutes 30 seconds for their opening remarks. That, insofar as possible, they provide the committee clerks with their documents 72 hours in advance. That, at the chair's discretion, during witnesses' remarks, 6 minutes be given to each party as follows. First turn Conservatives, second party Liberal, then Bloc Québécois, then NDP. For the second turn, it will go as follows. The Conservative Party will have 5 minutes, the Liberal Party 5 minutes, Bloc Québécois 2.5 minutes, New Democratic Party 2.5 minutes, then Conservative Party 5 minutes, Liberal Party 5 minutes.
Voilà. Donc,
Okay, Madam Clerk, what do you think? Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we have a motion before us with different components. Some members might be more strict, or some of them rather might be more strict and say that each amendment should be voted on. It was proposed to vote on different parts of the amendment one at a time. If that is the desire of the chair, we certainly can proceed in that fashion. Would you like to proceed that way, Mr. Chair? Yes, and I think that that suits members as well. Very well. We will vote on Mr. Beaulieu's amendment. That is the first part of Mr. Beaulieu's amendment, and it stipulates that witnesses' opening remarks will be allocated 7.5 minutes instead of 10 minutes. Does the committee agree to pass that part of the amendment? If there is clear consensus on the part of the committee, we will not have to vote. If not, we will move on to a recorded division.
Donc, je pense qu'il faudrait procéder.
I think we will have to move on. I see Mr. Généreux. I think we will have to go ahead with that recorded division, Madam Clerk. Thank you very much. I will carry out the vote for you. Thank you. Mr. Arsenault?
C'est agréable de s'appeler Arsenault dans un vote comme ça.
It's very nice to be called Arsenault when your name starts with A in this kind of vote. Well, I've heard everyone's good intentions, and Mr. Chair, I think everyone will be able to have their chance to chip in during the second round. So I vote yes.
Donc, je précise que le vote est seulement.
I would like to specify the vote is only on the part of the amendment about 7.5 minutes per witness. It does not pertain to the second part of the amendment.
Les autres composantes vont être par.
The other components will follow. So, Mr. Arsenault, you vote yes?
Monsieur
Next, Mr. Duguid.
Je vote oui.
Madame Lalonde.
Miss Lalonde. Yes. Miss Lambropoulos. Yes. Miss Latanzio. Yes. Mr. Blaney.
Le consensus, je vais voter non.
We won't have consensus. I vote no.
Monsieur Généreux.
Non.
Mr. Généreux. No. Mr. Williamson.
Monsieur Beaulieu.
Oui.
Mr. Beaulieu. Yes. Miss Ashton. Yes.
Merci, Madame la greffière. Donc,
Thank you, Clerk. Witnesses will thus be given 7.5 minutes for their opening statements. Mr. Duguid.
And a question to Madam Clerk through you. We were going alphabetically during the first round of voting, and I noticed we are now going by party. What is the usual procedure, and just to set expectations for the committee? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Madame la greffière, oui, si vous pouvez.
Oui.
Madam Clerk, go ahead and answer the question. Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the question. The clerk receives an order for votes and follows that order as we just did. Earlier, we went in alphabetical order because there wasn't a chair, but now we have a chair, so we will use the order that we just used. Thank you for answering the question. Madame Ménard. We have adopted the motion for opening statement time, and now let's vote on the other part. Yes, now we will vote on the change in order and in speaking time, the 5 and the 2.5 minutes. Yes, let's see whether there is consensus. Is there consensus? Miss Lalonde's hand is raised. Miss Lalonde, go ahead. Thank you, Chair. Mr. Beaulieu, I believe, added an additional amendment about the 72 hours. Clerk, where would we put this? Are we voting on this now? The 72 hours, wherever possible, seemed to have unanimous support, but we could vote on it if you like. Does the committee agree to the 72 hours? Yes. Excellent. Now, let us vote on speaking order and time. Please proceed, Clerk. Is there consensus, or should we do a recorded division? We shall vote. Mr. Arsenault, I'm confused. We're voting on second round? Yes, we are now looking at the second part of the motion about changing the order for the 2.5 minutes. So Conservative Party 2.5, Liberal 2.5, Bloc 2.5, NDP 2.5 minutes, Conservative 5 minutes, and Liberal Party 5 minutes. So everyone would have the same speaking time? All right, that's fine. I'm in agreement. Mr. Duguid. Yes. Miss Lalonde. Yes. Miss Lambropoulos. Yes. Miss Latanzio. Yes. Mr. Blaney. Yes. Mr. Dalton. Yes. Mr. Généreux. Yes. Mr. Williamson. Apologies. Yes. Mr. Beaulieu. Yes. Miss Ashton. Yes. Twelve yeas. All right. There we have it. Mr. Beaulieu's amendment has been adopted. Now, let us vote on the motion as amended. We will now vote for the motion as amended. Do we have consensus? There is consensus. Chair, let us continue with the routine motions. Next, document distribution. Motion that only the clerk of the committee be authorized to distribute documents to members of the committee only when the documents are available in both official languages and that the witnesses be advised accordingly. Do we have unanimous agreement? Madam Clerk, it seems that there is unanimous agreement. Next motion. Thank you. Working meals. Motion that the clerk of the committee be authorized to make the necessary arrangements to provide working meals for the committee and its subcommittees. Mr. Généreux. Can I have meals delivered to me here at home? I support then. Yes, we'll send you some meals. Do we have unanimous agreement? It seems that we do. Next, travel, accommodation, and living expenses of witnesses. Motion that, if requested, reasonable travel, accommodation, and living expenses be reimbursed to witnesses not exceeding 2 representatives per organization, provided that, in exceptional circumstances, payment for more representatives be made at the discretion of the chair. Is there consensus? Are we all in agreement? Great. Thank you. Next routine motion. Ms. Lalonde. Access to in-camera meetings. Motion that, unless otherwise ordered, each committee member be allowed to have 1 staff member at an in-camera meeting, and that 1 additional person from each House officer's office be allowed to be present. Do we have unanimous agreement? It seems that we do. Next, transcripts of in-camera meetings. That 1 copy of the transcript of each in-camera meeting be kept in the committee clerk's office for consultation by members of the committee or by their staff. Any comments? Do we have consensus? We do. Next, notice of motion. Motion that a 48 hours notice, interpreted as 2 nights, shall be required for any substantive motion to be considered by the committee, unless the substantive motion relates directly to business then under consideration, provided that 1. The notice be filed with the clerk of the committee no later than 4 p.m. from Monday to Friday, that 2. The motion be distributed to members in both official languages by the clerk on the same day the said notice was transmitted if it was received no later than the deadline hour. And that 3. Notices received after the deadline hour or on non-business days be deemed to have been received during the next business day, and that when the committee is traveling on official businesses, no substantive motions may be moved. Any comments? Do we have unanimous agreement? All right. Our last routine motion, orders of reference from the House respecting bills. Motion that, in relation to orders of reference from the House respecting bills, A, the clerk of the committee shall, upon the committee receiving such an order of reference, write to each member who is not a member of a caucus represented on the committee to invite those members to file with the clerk of the committee in both official languages any amendments to the bill which is the subject of the said order, which they would suggest that the committee consider. B. Suggested amendments filed pursuant to paragraph A at least 48 hours prior to the start of clause-by-clause consideration of the bill to which the amendments relate shall be deemed to be proposed during the said consideration, provided that the committee may, by motion, vary this deadline in respect of a given bill. And C. During the clause-by-clause consideration of a bill, the chair shall allow a member who filed suggested amendments pursuant to paragraph A an opportunity to make brief representations in support of them. Thank you. Before asking whether we are in agreement, I see that some hands are raised. Colleagues, do you wish to speak on this motion or to speak to other matters? Okay, so this motion has been presented. Are we in agreement on this last motion? As read by Ms. Lalonde.
So there is consensus? Thank you. And thanks once more, Mr. Chair and dear colleagues, for your patience while I was reading these routine motions. It was great. So we're waiting a word from the clerk to try and see if all routine motions have been carried at this time. Yes, indeed. Great. So we went through this very important step. Then there are 3 raised hands. Mrs. Lambopoulos, Mrs. Latanzio, and Mr. Beaulieu. Go ahead. I'm listening to you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to table a motion that has already been proposed during the last meeting. We've all accepted it unanimously, except that some changes have been brought forward in order to take into account COVID-19. The motion was sent to the clerk. Maybe the motion should be sent to all committee members as it is in both official languages. Or do I go ahead with the motion? I will now ask the clerk how to proceed. Will you be sending this through Zoom? How will we proceed? Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. Once more, usually there would be a notice of motion because we just carried the routine motions, but given that it's the first meeting and we're under committee business, there was no notice. It's up to you, Mr. Chair, to tell us how do you want to proceed. You want us to send the motion in both official languages right now and wait for members to have received this? Yes, it would be useful. We're here on our services. If you send us to us right now, we can go ahead. We'll do it right away, Mr. Chair. Just a second. Mr. Beaulieu, you want to say something? Usually, before voting or before receiving a notice, there is a 48 hours. I want to table other motions, so we should respect the 48 hours notice so that everyone could table their motions. I'll check with the clerk. It's true that, as she just said, it's our first meeting. Some seconds ago, we just voted on that motion relating to the 48 hours. We must also understand that in order to prepare our business, we could table several motions, but it doesn't mean that the debate will happen in the same order as the motions have been tabled. Though we could come back to these motions during the session. Nancy, am I wrong in saying that? In fact, first thing first, did Mrs. Lambropoulos, does she want to give notice of motion or table the motion for debate? If we're talking about a verbal notice of motion, no problem. If we're talking about tabling for debate, the routine motion has been carried, and it specifies concerning the notice of motion that a 48 hours notice interpreted as 2 nights shall be required for any substantive motion to be considered by the committee unless the substantive motion relates directly to business then under consideration. So it's up to the chair to decide unless the substantive motion relates to business then under consideration, unless we consider committee business as the business under consideration. If the chair decides it's directly related, or if he thinks there is no link, it's up to the chair to decide if it's receivable or not at the outset. And before the chair's decision, we should consult Mrs. Lambropoulos to see if she just wanted to give a notice of motion or if she wanted to table the motion for a current debate. I wanted to table it for debate during this meeting, given that we're on committee business, so we don't need the 48 hours notice. When we're in committee business, yes, it's always preferable to send a notice, but the committee had not yet been created, so... Understood. Mr. Beaulieu. Just a second. Before giving you the floor, Mrs. Latanzio and Mr. Blaney wanted to take the floor. Mrs. Latanzio. Madame Latanzio's microphone.
Je maintiens ma main parce que justement j'aurais une...
She says she had a motion to table. Mr. Blaney. Mr. Blaney, you're on mute. Mr. Stephen Blaney, you're on mute. Here I am. I think you can hear me well now. Essentially, Mr. Chair, I only want to finish with these routine motions. I draw your attention on the fact that I want to hear official motions. Sometimes there were departmental appearances that were not televised. When there is a minister, it's in the public interest that this testimony be broadcast. So I draw your attention on that. When there will be a notice of meetings in this regard, that's what we shall bear in mind. A report had been tabled in a previous session by the Official Languages Committee, and we didn't ask for a response from the government, which is unfortunate. And we're talking here about the Heritage Committee. So I think that we should always ask for a 30-day response from the government, and this is in the public interest. It's just a reminder of how important it is to be able to debate motions that is for a greater efficiency and in the interest of the public. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madame la Greffière, Madame Clerk, Mr. Chair, let's go back to the debate proceedings. Mrs. Lambropoulos told us that she wanted to table this motion. As we said earlier, it's up to you to decide if it's receivable or not today. Which motions are receivable today, admissible? And if that's the case, there shall be a debate. And like Mr. Blaney said, it should not be proposed currently because it's one motion at a time. Okay, well, before reacting to Mrs. Lambropoulos' proposal, I would like to listen to Mr. Beaulieu. It's almost 5:30. We won't have enough time to look at all the motions, so I think it would be better to send a notice and we could debate these motions at our next meeting. It's true. It is 5:25. So, Mrs. Lambropoulos said she would have wanted us to debate a motion. So, on this, I do have a decision to make. Given the time, I will turn off everyone's mic and all the videos in order to talk to the clerks, Mrs. Menard and Mrs. Nancy. It's a joke when I'm saying I will turn off your mics, but I will ask the clerks to provide me a piece of advice given the time and given the importance of Mrs. Lambropoulos' proposal. Madame Lalonde, you want to have the floor? I will first hear the clerks. So the option is to suspend for a couple of minutes in order to talk with us? Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Mr. Chair, before doing so, if we want to leave the meeting in a couple of minutes, allow me to be the first one to take the floor during our next meeting. Noted. So, let's take this short break. I'll have a talk with the clerks. Well, we're still in a virtual mode. So how should we go ahead?
technicians and analysts and everyone to come back to the meeting. Dear colleagues, following this consultation, and given the time, it is 5:35 p.m., and also given Ms. Lambropoulos' most recent remarks, I would propose for Ms. Lambropoulos to send her document in order to give notice to committee members. That way, all other committee members will see the motion they will be debating on, and the next meeting will be a committee business meeting, and we will go ahead and address Ms. Lambropoulos' motion. Also, the 48 hours will have been respected. Therefore, we will all have had time to read everyone's motions and to debate them in committee business. And that will, in turn, allow us to establish our calendar. Are there any comments or questions on that? Ms. Lalonde and then Mr. Beaulieu. It is true, we have no other obligations afterwards, so we could have continued on a little longer today, but I have proposed what I just proposed to you. So, Ms. Lalonde, you have the floor. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I fully agree with your intentions and your proposal. I'm very keen on protocol, Mr. Chair, and I think it's important to respect the fact that my colleague, MP Lambropoulos, Emanuela, was in order to speak first, and then I saw hands up for Ms. Latanzio. Also, Mr. Blaney, who had their hands up. And Mr. Blaney, you would be entirely welcome to propose a motion. We are very much looking forward to hearing your motion and to debating it on this excellent committee. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Beaulieu. Well, I don't have any problem with that, as long as everyone can send their motion. In that way, all members, all MPs will have seen the motions, and we will be able to decide what to prioritize. That way we will decide which motion will be addressed first. We will know whether or not we personally are for or against a motion in order to know what the best, most efficient priority is. Very good. Before giving the floor to Mr. Dalton, what I suggested or proposed was that Ms. Lambropoulos would submit a notice of motion, and then that would be the first motion that we would discuss together as a committee during a committee business meeting. And then we will look at other motions, looking at which subjects the committee will look into. Mr. Dalton. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question. Will we meet every Tuesday at the same time? Has that been established? Well, for the time being, I will consult the clerks, but for the moment, it is not possible to determine that because the whip from each party need to have discussions in order to arrive at the best times for committee sittings. So in my opinion, we can't know how many times per week we will be getting together. Mr. Dalton, because I would like to know how many times we'll be getting together next week. We haven't yet decided on all of the motions. But if this is a motion that I need to propose, I'm ready to propose it. But I think that we should meet next week. Well, that doesn't depend on me, but I'll tell you what we can do. If you have a motion, please respect the 48 hours and do submit your motion. And that way, the next time that the committee meets to address committee business, we will be able to proceed with discussions. I saw some hands raised. Ms. Lalonde, and then Mr. Arsenault. I believe Mr. Arsenault had his hand raised before me, so I'll give you the floor, Mr. Arsenault. How polite and how kind. Thank you very much. To come back to Mr. Dalton's comments, I don't think that can be decided right away, because I do think the whips are negotiating. I might be mistaken, Mr. Chair, but let's go back to our respective parties to consult on that. Excellent. Thank you very much. Now, Ms. Lalonde. My comment, in fact, was in the same vein as my colleague, Mr. Arsenault, because it's really the decision of the whips. So, Mr. Dalton, I would strongly encourage you to speak with your whip, the Conservative whip, so that he can better respond to your question about this committee, because we have always worked so well together. Well, I'm very pleased to see so much enthusiasm to work together as soon as possible. It's been since March that we haven't sat together. So on that note, dear colleagues, dear committee members, it is 5:42. I think that we had an excellent and very wonderful first meeting. I propose that we carry on with this harmonious cooperation. And I'll give the floor to Ms. Lattanzio.
Today's meeting. It's as simple as that.
D'accord. Bon, excellent. Donc,
Very well, excellent. Madam Clerk, there has been a motion tabled to adjourn. Is there consensus to adjourn? It seems everyone is in agreement. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Committee members, analysts, technicians, interpreters, clerks. We're looking forward to seeing all of you. Goodbye. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Bye.